This video will only find you when you most need it. This is not just another self-help monologue. This is a summons to wake. You did not arrive here by chance. Something inside you has reached its limit. Maybe you can't name it. Maybe it feels like slow erosion day by day. A quiet despair, a hidden weariness, a sense that you are living someone else's story. The truth is simple. You can no longer afford to pretend. Something inside you is cracking, and from that fracture, a new voice is calling. What if I told you that your pain, your emptiness, your longing are not malfunctions, but invitations? Most of us are taught to fear these feelings. We call them weakness. We medicate them. We bury them under busyness, entertainment, distraction. But Jung saw something different. He taught that when your soul begins to ache, it is not random. It is a signal. It is the psyche itself, knocking on the walls of your life, demanding space. At some point in every life lived too long in shadow, a fissure appears. The mask begins to crack. The story you've been performing stops working. You feel it first as exhaustion. You wake up tired, even after a full night's sleep. You drag yourself through the day, every task heavier than it should be. This is not just fatigue, it's your soul protesting. Then comes disillusionment. The job that once gave you purpose feels empty. The relationship you thought was safe feels suffocating. The routines that once kept you stable now feel like chains. And finally, collapse. Emotional meltdowns that seem to come out of nowhere. Moments of rage or tears or numbness you can't explain. The breakdown that makes you whisper to yourself, I can't keep living like this. Here is the paradox. That breakdown is the beginning. Jung understood this better than anyone. He lived it. After his break with Freud, Jung fell into what looked like a psychological collapse. But instead of fighting it, he listened. He discovered that the unconscious, what he called the vast hidden ocean of the psyche, was not trying to destroy him. It was trying to remake him. He realized that the psyche has a built-in tendency to move toward wholeness. And when the gap between your inner world and your outer facade becomes too wide, the unconscious intervenes. It pulls the plug. It forces a crack. This is the moment you may be in right now. Maybe you're in a relationship that drains your vitality, but you keep smiling through it. Maybe you're stuck in a job that pays your bills, but suffocates your spirit. Maybe you carry the weight of always pleasing others, of fulfilling roles that someone else wrote for you. And maybe you felt like one of those functional zombies Jung's students once described. Going through the motions, alive on the outside, hollow on the inside. Numbed by routine, anesthetized by screens, scrolling through life but never living it. The soul will not tolerate this forever. Ignore the whisper, and it grows louder. Suppress it, and it returns in dreams. Bury it, and it shows up in your body. Chronic fatigue, anxiety, restless nights. This is not proof that you are broken. It is proof that the ego has run out of illusions. Your soul is crying because it refuses to keep playing dead. Your fracture is sacred. And yet, society has trained us to see it as failure. When you break down, the world says, something is wrong with you. You need to fix it quickly. Take a pill. Get back to work. Don't make anyone uncomfortable. But Jung would say, no, don't rush to silence the crack. Don't plaster it over with false positivity. Listen, because within the fracture lies your invitation. It's the invitation to begin the process Jung called individuation, the long, often painful path of becoming who you really are. To leave behind the borrowed story, to stop living for roles, for masks, for approval. To begin the honest, terrifying work of authenticity. This isn't abstract theory. It's happening in lives all around you. A man works 20 years at a firm, only to wake one day with chest pains. Doctors say he's fine, but inside he knows he can't go back to that desk. A woman spends her life as the dependable caregiver, the peacemaker, until one day she bursts into tears in a grocery aisle because she realizes no one has ever asked her what she truly wants. A college student, high-achieving, praised for grades and leadership, suddenly feels paralyzed. She doesn't want to move forward, not because she's lazy, but because every step on her current path feels like betrayal. These are not failures. They are thresholds. They are the places where the soul begins to cry. And that cry is not asking for sedation. It is asking for transformation. If you feel this crack in your own life, know this: you are not alone. You are not weak. You are not malfunctioning. You are at the beginning of something Jung called the journey toward wholeness. But before you can take that journey, you must face a painful truth. That fracture has revealed the price you've been paying just to survive. And that price is higher than you ever imagined. From the moment we are born, the world begins to shape us. Do this, don't do that. Say yes, don't cause trouble. Smile for the camera. Society has rules, spoken and unspoken. And if you want safety, belonging, stability, you learn to play by them. We call this survival. But here's the hidden cost. To survive, you trade pieces of yourself away. The wildness, the curiosity, the honest voice that says no. From childhood, most of us are taught to obey before we are taught to listen inward. Follow the rules, don't rock the boat, meet expectations. It sounds harmless, but over years this obedience becomes a cage. Jung warned about this. He saw one of modernity's gravest dangers as what he called massification, the molding of unique individuals into predictable, interchangeable units. Society rewards conformity. It praises the one who adapts, the one who fits in, but it quietly suffocates authenticity. Think about it. The education system rarely asks, "Who are you? What makes your soul come alive?" It asks, "Can you sit still? Can you repeat the answer? Can you be graded, ranked, measured?" The workplace rarely asks, "What is your deepest gift?" It asks, "Can you perform? Can you increase output? Can you keep the machine running?" Even in families, love is often confused with compliance. Be the good child. Be the reliable sibling. Be the one who doesn't cause conflict. So we adapt. We adapt so well that we forget we are adapting. We smile when we don't want to. We say yes when our chest screams no. We wear the clothes, the titles, the personas that allow us to blend in. And society rewards us with paychecks, with approval, with the illusion of safety. But deep down, the soul is suffocating. Jung called this pathology, the sickness that arises when adaptation demands the surrender of the self. Yes, adaptation is necessary. We all need to negotiate with the world. But when survival comes at the price of your authenticity, the cost is too high. Millions live under that tyranny. Lives cushioned by comfort but hollow from within. Everything looks fine on the outside. Steady job, stable family, full schedule. But when the lights go out, the silence screams. And here's the cruelest part. In that emptiness, people mistake their pain for personal failure. They think, something is wrong with me. But the truth is, something is wrong with the life they've been forced to perform. The culture tells you to fix it with quick solutions. Take a pill, start a new routine, download another productivity app. These are bandages, not medicine, because the soul doesn't want efficiency. It wants meaning. It wants life. It wants truth. Jung wrote about this in The Undiscovered Self. He argued that mass society numbs people into predictability, and in doing so, creates emptiness that no system can fill. The common life may look stable, but on the inside, the soul is starving. And maybe you know this firsthand. Maybe you've sat in a meeting where everyone nods and agrees, but inside you feel like a ghost. Maybe you've walked through your home, the pictures on the wall smiling back at you, while you whisper inside, "This isn't my life." Maybe you've lain awake at night, staring at the ceiling, thinking, "If this is all there is, why do I feel so dead?" That feeling is the bill coming due, the price of survival. Yes, you've bought safety. Yes, you've bought approval. But you've paid for it with your soul. And here is the breaking point. The soul refuses to live on borrowed time forever. Sooner or later it begins to fight back, through restlessness, through depression, through a longing you cannot explain. And this is where the unconscious begins to stir. When the persona and the ego can no longer hold the gap, something else intervenes. It begins to speak, not in the language of logic, but in symbols, through dreams, through synchronicities, through the strange magnetic pull of messages like the one you're hearing right now. Which brings us to the next step, because when survival is no longer enough, the psyche itself begins to guide you. It whispers in symbols. It speaks in synchronicities. It uses the outer world as a mirror for your inner transformation. That is the moment the unconscious takes the lead. There comes a moment when ordinary explanations no longer make sense. You try to rationalize your exhaustion, your restlessness, your sudden collapse of interest in things that once defined you. You tell yourself it's just stress, just age, just another phase. But beneath the surface, something else has already begun. The unconscious has a voice of its own, and when the ego is too rigid, too small to carry your growth, that voice grows louder. You notice strange patterns. A song plays on the radio and its lyrics pierce you like a personal message. A book falls into your hands at the exact moment you are asking a silent question. A dream repeats itself night after night, so vivid you wake up shaken. Coincidences, people call them, but Jung gave them another name: synchronicity. Not just chance, not simple cause and effect, but meaningful coincidences. Moments where the outer world and your inner state align with uncanny precision. It feels almost like the universe is speaking directly to you. And in a way it is. Jung believed the unconscious is not a passive archive of memories. It is active, alive, intentional. When the ego cannot move forward on its own, the unconscious steps in. It begins to magnetize what you need: people, symbols, events that mirror the truth you're avoiding. Think back in your own life. Have you ever stumbled onto words that felt like they were written only for you? Or met someone at just the right time, as if they appeared from nowhere? Or felt a pull toward a place, a song, a phrase that you couldn't explain? That pull is not random. It is psyche in motion. And here's the startling part. Even this video may be one of those moments. The unconscious has its ways of arranging things. It nudges you here, to these words, right when you are ready to hear them. Not earlier, not later. Now, as Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Fate is often nothing more than the unconscious guiding in symbols. The billboard you notice, the line in a poem that won't leave you, the dream that clings to you through the day. These are not decorations, they are messages. The symbolic voice speaks when direct language fails. It bypasses the rational mind and pierces the heart. It unsettles you because it doesn't argue. It simply appears, undeniable, shimmering with meaning. When this voice begins to guide, you no longer feel alone in your struggle. It is as if the psyche itself is on your side, whispering, "This way, keep going, don't turn back." Of course, the ego resists. It says, "Coincidence, imagination, don't be silly." But the more you pay attention, the more the pattern repeats. And deep down you know you're being called. This is how the unconscious leads, quietly, symbolically, insistently. It will not hand you a map, but it will hand you a lantern, one flicker at a time. A dream here, a chance encounter there, a piece of art that moves you to tears, a sudden inner vision in the stillness of night. This is guidance, not the kind that shouts, but the kind that weaves your path in threads you only see when you step back. Jung called this living the symbolic life, and he believed it was essential for wholeness, because without it you are cut off from the deeper current. With it you move in rhythm with something far greater than yourself, and it always begins in the same way, with paying attention. When the unconscious begins to lead, your task is not to control it, but to listen, to notice, to let meaning emerge where others only see randomness. So if you felt these strange alignments, don't dismiss them. Don't rush back into rational explanations. Lean closer, because they are not distractions. They are invitations. Invitations to trust that you are being guided into a life larger than the one you have known. But here is the challenge. Seeing the symbols is not enough. One day the guidance will demand action. The crack in your life will widen into a doorway, and the only way forward will be to leap. That moment is terrifying because it means leaving behind what is familiar, even if it is killing you. And so the path deepens into its most dangerous and most liberating stage, the leap into transformation. There comes a point when watching is no longer enough. You can notice the signs, you can dream the dreams, you can sense the symbols guiding you. But the moment always arrives when you must move. This is the most frightening stage, because it asks you to leave behind the familiar, even when the familiar is killing you. The ego hates this. The ego craves stability, control, predictability. It whispers, "Stay where you are. It's safer here. You can manage a little longer. Don't risk everything." It will give you reasons. You're not ready. You'll lose your security. People will laugh. People will leave. You will fail. Jung often spoke of this inner battle in the language of myth. He used the image of the dragon, the terrifying guardian at the threshold. The dragon is every fear, every doubt, every voice of resistance that rises when you dare to cross into the unknown. To face it is to feel like dying. And in a sense you are, because transformation always begins with a kind of death. Not the death of your body, but the death of the persona, the shell you've lived in, the identity that no longer fits. It feels like everything is unraveling. The job, the relationship, the old story, all crumbling at once, and you wonder if you've gone mad. But here is the paradox. What looks like death is the beginning of birth. The leap is never safe. It is never clean. It will tear pieces of your old self away. But on the other side, there is renewal. Think of the butterfly. For weeks, the caterpillar eats, grows, survives. But when transformation calls, it enters the cocoon and dissolves. It doesn't grow wings on top of its old body. It melts into nothing first. Only then can something new emerge. The psyche works the same way. To live a new life, the old one must dissolve. And yes, it hurts. You will grieve the comfort of your prison. You will mourn the mask, even though it suffocated you. You will feel lost in the in-between, where the old is gone and the new has not yet arrived. This is the dark night of the soul. Every tradition speaks of it. The desert, the abyss, the trial by fire. But Jung saw it not as punishment, but as passage. The ego must break so the self can emerge. The leap requires surrender. And surrender does not mean passivity. It means courage. It means saying, "I cannot stay where I am, even if I don't know where I will land." That is the leap. Not certainty, not perfection, just enough courage to take the step. And here's the secret. You don't need to see the entire path. You only need to see the next step. The bridge appears one plank at a time. What matters is your willingness. The willingness to let go of the script. The willingness to let the old identity fall away. The willingness to trust that something larger than the ego is guiding you forward. When you leap, fear does not vanish. But fear no longer commands you. You move with fear, not against it. You walk through the fire, not around it. And slowly, the fire becomes light. The dragon becomes a teacher. The death becomes renewal. Many resist this moment their whole lives. They cling to what is safe until the end. But those who leap discover something extraordinary. On the other side of fear lies not destruction, but presence. Not emptiness, but meaning. Not loss, but authenticity. This is the turning point. The ego is no longer in charge. The unconscious has been heard, and your life begins to take on a new shape, a shape that feels like your own. But before this renewal can take root, one truth must be faced. No one can walk this path for you. No savior will carry you across. The leap must be yours alone. And that realization is where we turn next. Radical responsibility. No savior, no proxy. One of the hardest truths to face is this. No one is coming to save you. Not the guru on the stage, not the influencer with 1 million followers, not the therapist, the partner, the parent, or the trend of the moment. Help may appear, guides may walk beside you, but the crossing, the real work of transformation, cannot be outsourced. Jung insisted on this again and again. He warned against the projection of the savior archetype. That deep, childlike hope that someone else will rescue you. That one book, one teacher, one relationship will finally make you whole. This longing comes from the infantile psyche, the part of us that once relied completely on a parent to survive. It is natural, but it cannot carry you into adulthood of the soul. At some point, you must look in the mirror and say, "This is my journey. No one can walk it for me." Radical responsibility is not the same as blame. It doesn't mean you caused all the wounds, the betrayals, the traumas that marked your path. But it does mean this. From now on, your healing is your responsibility. It means you stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for someone else to fix the fracture. You stop handing away your power to teachers, systems, or idols. Because every time you wait for a rescuer, you delay your own emergence. Jung saw this in his patients. Those who clung to him as a savior never truly transformed. They improved for a while, but their growth collapsed when he pulled away. Only those who claimed their own authority, their own inner guide, could walk the individuation path to the end. That path is lonely. It is frightening. But it is also the only one that leads to freedom. When you accept radical responsibility, something shifts. You stop asking, "Why hasn't someone saved me yet?" And you begin asking, "What can I do with what I've been given?" This is the moment you move from victim to participant, from dependency to agency, from waiting to acting. And action does not mean perfection, it means courage. The courage to try, to stumble, to risk, to learn, to return again and again. You will fall, you will doubt, you will grieve, but each fall is part of the way forward. Taking responsibility means you own the whole of your humanity, not just the light but the shadow, not just the strengths but the flaws. You stop outsourcing your wholeness. You stop pretending someone else can integrate your darkness for you. Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." That is what radical responsibility demands. No splitting, no hiding, no waiting for a savior to absolve you. It is terrifying, and it is liberating. Because when you take this stance, your freedom becomes non-negotiable. No system, no authority, no figure outside you can dictate the core of who you are. You begin to live from the self, not the mask, not the ego's performance, not borrowed scripts. And you start to realize something else. All the saviors you once sought outside are reflections of something within. The teacher, the healer, the leader. They are mirrors pointing back to your own undeveloped potential. The archetype is real, but the direction is wrong. The savior you've been waiting for has always lived inside you. This does not mean you stop seeking help. It means you seek it differently. You welcome guides, not as replacements for your authority, but as companions who remind you of your own power. Therapy, community, mentorship, they matter deeply, but they cannot substitute for your willingness to do the work, to sit in silence, to face your shadow, to take the next hard step. And when you embrace this truth, something unexpected happens. You no longer fear the fall. You no longer dread failure, because you know, even if you collapse, even if no one catches you, you will rise again. Your psyche is resilient, your soul is relentless, and your path belongs to you alone. This realization is not the end of struggle, but it is the end of waiting. It is the beginning of authentic life. And from here, the horizon opens. Beyond fear, beyond waiting, beyond savior illusions. What waits there is not perfection, but presence. Not utopia, but authenticity. Not fantasy, but real life. Whole and imperfect, lived on your own terms. Crossing the threshold does not lead to paradise. It does not erase your wounds. It does not crown you. What it offers is something far. Presence, me, authenticity. These three words sound simple, but to live them is a revolution. On the other side of fear, you begin to see life differently. Not as a, but as a phi. Jung often returned to the image of the Ouroboros, the serpent eating it. To him, not the whole. Wholeness does not mean you never stumble. It means you no longer exile. You let them belong, and you stop fighting the endless war to appear flawless. You stop exhausting yourself trying to measure up to borrowed ideals. You begin to rest in your own skin, raw and imperfect as it is. This presence is not passive. It is alive. It lets you taste life moment by moment, without constant self-judgment, without constant performance. You sit with a friend and you're actually there, not half lost in the next thing you need to do. You walk outside and the sky, the trees, the sound of traffic feels strangely luminous because you are not hiding from them anymore. You breathe, and the breath feels like a gift, not an obligation. Meaning emerges naturally in this state. Not the meaning handed down by systems or authorities, but meaning that grows from within, like roots breaking through concrete. The job you keep, or the job you leave, Both can be meaningful if they align with your authentic path. The relationships you nurture, they are no longer based on masks but on real presence, real honesty. Even your struggles take on meaning because they shape you into someone more whole. You begin to see that suffering itself is not an enemy. It is a teacher. As Jung wrote, "There is no birth of consciousness without pain." The cracks, the breakdowns, the nights of despair, they were not detours. They were the very ground from which your new life grows. Authenticity is the final fruit. It is not about broadcasting your true self on social media. It is not about adopting another identity to prove how real you are. It is quieter. It is the way you move through the world when you are no longer pretending. It is the sound of your voice when you speak what you actually mean. It is the way your eyes meet another's without shame or performance. Authenticity is costly. It means some people will no longer understand you. It means you may lose the roles that once gave you security. But it also means you finally belong to yourself. And that belonging is priceless. To live authentically is to accept paradox. You are both strong and fragile, both certain and lost, both light and shadow, and you no longer need to hide any of it. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole. It is not about becoming perfect, it is about becoming real. And in becoming real, you find that life itself becomes bearable, even beautiful. Because when you live from presence, meaning, and authenticity, you are no longer enslaved by fear. You are no longer consumed by masks. You are no longer asleep in someone else's story. Instead, you are awake. Awake in the only moment you ever truly have, this one. And now the question shifts. It is no longer, can I survive? It becomes, how will I live? And with that shift, a new invitation arrives, an invitation to declare it openly, to choose it consciously, to step forward with your whole being and say, I choose to cross. If you've made it this far, maybe something deep inside you has already shifted. The crack you've been hiding is no longer just pain, it has become a doorway. Jung reminded us that the journey of becoming is not about perfection, it is about honesty, about daring to live a life that feels true, even when it costs you comfort, even when it strips away what no longer fits. Your soul does not want performance. It does not want applause. It wants presence. It wants truth. It wants you, unmasked, imperfect, whole. So here is the invitation. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for permission. Choose to cross. Choose to live in a way that belongs to you. And when you stumble, as you surely will, remember, stumbling is still moving forward. The path of wholeness is not a straight line. It is a spiral, winding and returning, teaching you the same lessons at deeper and deeper levels. If these words found you at the right time, hold them close. Let them remind you that you are not broken. You are becoming. And if this spoke to you, share it. Leave a thought below. Subscribe if you want to keep walking this path with us, because the world doesn't need more masks. It needs more of you, real, awake, alive.